Thank you very much. With pleasure. I'll give you more information on the admissions application process and more questions, detailed information on the scholarships that we can offer.
Sorry, just playing with my notes.
So as you'll see in the next slide, the tuition fees for the program are 10,000 francs, Swiss francs per year for EU and EFTA students, and 20,000 francs per year for non-EU and non-EFTA nationals. But we do, for our most qualified applicants, we do have different scholarship opportunities for students. And there was one question, if I'm not mistaken, asking in particular, how do you know if you qualified for a scholarship, for a possible scholarship? In the email you received, you should have been notified that your results qualify you for the scholarship. But if you have any questions about that, you can contact us at the master's office email address that we will put, will be on our very last slide. But Professor Meyer, if you can go to the next slide, I can give you more information specifically about the different scholarships that we offer. So we do have two scholarships, one which covers just the tuition that I mentioned earlier, and it's as is the case for both scholarships, it's renewed based on your results, your academic achievements every semester. And then we do also, we're very excited to be able to offer as well a full scholarship, which covers the tuition fees, full tuition waiver, as well as a living stipend while students are physically in Schaffhausen following the program. And the stipend is 2,000 Swiss francs per month. And in the next slide, if you can go, indeed. So to give you more information, and I will give you, there's a question about living expenses, and I will give you more information about that in a further slide. But here you'll see that in the scholarships, not only do we require that you have received a certain score on Code Forces, again, that you should have been notified about, and you can verify with us if need be. And we also take into account previous academic results, professional experience, and the results, the admissions interview that I will talk about a little bit and further. So in the next slide, we'll move on to the application. There we go, excuse me. So indeed, Olga, I think, responded in the chat, but you see here, this is a rough estimate of living costs, per month. And so as you can see, it's 2,000 francs per month. So the living stipend that we give to students who receive the full scholarship is in accordance with that. And of course, it's an estimated cost of living. And as you see, you know, it really depends. There are some of those costs that are variable depending on an individual basis. And then there are some that are pretty fixed, you know, health insurance, utilities, waste disposal, public transport. But of course, as you'll see, you know, going out may vary depending on, again, each student. So in the next slide, now that we've spoken specifically about the scholarships, what they cover and the cost of living, we'll talk a little bit specifically about the admissions process. So we would ask you to, by email, send us required documents. And again, excuse me, now I'm stumbling a little bit because on the next, if you wouldn't mind going to the next slide, or going back, excuse me, because there should be, here we go. This one, yes, thank you.
Next one, sorry.
The admissions process. No, I'm not being clear. Thank you. So we would ask you following this open hour as soon as possible and by August 31st at the latest to submit the following documents. And there were some questions about English certificates, which Olga mentioned is optional, and as are other elements like a GRE that I think was also a question. But the required documents are your diploma and transcript, a personal statement, motivational letter giving us more information about your previous background, why you would want to come and study with us, and what you might want to do after if you were to enroll, an updated CV resume, and a copy of an ID passport. And again, English certificate is optional and letters of recommendation are optional. And once we have those required documents, I would schedule with you a 20-minute interview with one of the members of our faculty, possibly Professor Meyer or another faculty member. And if we could go to the next slide. There we go. Thank you. This admissions interview, about 20 minutes, where we would ask you to briefly present yourself, and then you would be asked to answer some technical questions related to computer science and software engineering, and have a last chance as well to ask any specific questions you might have about the program. And so once we've received all of the required documents and done the admissions interview, we would get back to you with our admissions decision. And if we're able to give you a scholarship, either tuition waiver only or the full scholarship. And in the next slide, and the next one, thank you. Just a few comments about Schaffhausen, where Constructor Institute is located. It's a northern Switzerland, very close to Germany, 40 minutes away from big city of Zurich, close to one of the largest waterfalls, the largest waterfall, if I'm not mistaken, in Europe. So great quality of life. And as Professor Meyer mentioned, it's integral to the program to really give our students opportunities to network and be and to grow their professional network and opportunities as well. And Schaffhausen, it's smaller, but it's really the canton of Schaffhausen has really put big emphasis on economic development. There are a lot of tech companies headquartered there, and again, so close to Zurich and Germany. So in between the scenery, the waterfalls, and the quality of life there, it's a great place to study and to live. And so I think that's my last slide. I might mention actually the next one, the visa. So there was a question. There was a question on the possibility, the issue of obtaining a visa. So indeed, many of you will need a visa in order to come and study at Constructor Institute. And at this point, of course, if you were to apply and be admitted and decide to enroll and start the visa process, you wouldn't receive it until after the start of classes, which is this 18th of September, our semester starts. And so it does tend to be a process that can take up to a few months. And again, as Professor Meyer spoke about and Olga mentioned, responded in the chat, we are very used to students starting the program remotely and then coming as soon as they can. Sometimes that's within the first semester, November, December, or sometimes that could be at the the beginning of the second semester in February. And it's really not a problem. Of course, as Professor Meyer already said, it's very important for us to have our students in person because it brings a lot to the student experience and what you get out of the program. But again, the program is really organized so that it's not a problem if it takes a bit of time to receive your visa and come and start the program in person. So that is the end of my slides. I hope I've also answered any of the chats, the questions in the chats, but this is indeed the point where we'll move to the Q&A session, and I'll be happy to answer in more detail any questions that you might have about the admissions and scholarship process.
Thank you so much, Caroline. I would suggest that I will moderate Q&A section. We started to receive questions during our call. So, and one of them was about English certificate and also another exams. Yeah, so could you, what is the minimum requirement, GRE and IELTS score needed for scholarship? Yeah, can you please specify one more time just to clarify it? Yeah.
Indeed, with pleasure. So there is no minimum GRE score or IELTS score. Of course, the higher you can score, the better it is, and will be even more likely to be able to offer a scholarship. But there is no specific minimum score on either of those tests that we require.
Yeah, and to be quite clear, I think you mentioned it in the chat, Caroline, or maybe Olga, but we do not require the GRE. So if you did pass the GRE, then you can include the score. It's kind of an extra argument as part of your application, but the GRE is not required. Neither is a TOEFL or a similar English exam. We expect students to speak and understand English well. You know, if your English is not good enough, you're just not going to benefit from the program. But basically, we judge this during the interview.
Thank you so much. I would like to ask our participants to give reactions if it's fine, yeah, and we clarify the questions. It will be good to have this, interactions with you. So the person who asked the question, please give us a reaction that you understood everything regarding this question. So the next one, Caroline, it's also to you. What are the specific admission requirements? Yeah. So probably we should suggest, I would suggest to go back to the slide with all the admission requirements. One more time.
Just a second.
Just quickly to go through it one more time.
Is that it?
This one, yes, indeed. So what's required for us to consider a completed application is a copy of your undergraduate transcript listing of all the courses that you took and the corresponding grades, and a copy of your diploma if you've already received your diploma. We also ask for a personal statement, also sometimes called motivational letter, indicating a little bit more about anything you would like us to know about your background, whether it's internships you've done, work, professional experience, hobbies that are relevant, and more information about specifically why you would like to enroll in our program and what you think it might bring to you, and what your participation in the program would bring to Constructor Institute. We'd also ask for an updated copy of your CV resume listing your education and all relevant professional experience. Again, it could be internships, volunteer work, relevant internship, volunteer work, and professional experience jobs. And a copy of an official ID, so a passport ideally, if not you know, an official national ID card. And again, the English certificate is optional. I'll just repeat what Professor Meyer said, is that, of course, to successfully complete the program, you do have to have a good level of English, and that is something that's usually confirmed to us during the admissions interview. That's why if you already taken an English test like TOEFL or IELTS, it's wonderful if you can submit it. It makes our lives a little bit easier, of course, but it's not required, and you are not disqualified for not submitting that. And same thing for recommendation letters. We welcome them, but we do not require them, and you're not penalized for not having submitted a certain number of recommendation letters. And again, lastly, just there was mention of other types of tests like GREs. Again, we would be happy to receive that type of document, and it will be in your favor if you've done well, but you are not penalized either if you don't submit that. So.
Thank you so much, Caroline. Yeah.
There were a couple of questions at the beginning, I think, which can answer briefly. So what will happen is, so this was from Farouk Afsi. What will happen if taking visa takes too long and no online lectures are available? But what if visa process takes too long to intersect with exams or other things? So we're used to this situation because we don't control the visa process, and sometimes it's fast, sometimes it's less fast. So we, especially for the first semester, everything is set up in such a way that you can do things online, including exams. So we prefer people to be on site, but we've had fairly often the situation, especially at the beginning of the program, in the fall of the first year, full semester first year, people who are online first, and then they come as soon as they get their visa, be it November or December or January of next year. So it's a situation we're quite familiar with, and we handle it. You can take, at least for the first semester, all the courses and exams online. And then Anatoly Ignatiev added, isn't it a little bit too late to apply at the end of August? Well, to a certain extent, yes, it's very late, but remember that we said we are agile, and not everything needs to be organized 2 years in advance. So we would not be having this discussion if we were not prepared to act quickly and take in any good applications that come in, even if it's late. So yeah, it's too late, but we'll handle it.
And if I may quickly add, just to hopefully quickly answer a question that just came in, if I'm not mistaken, the last date for applying is the 31st of August. So.
Yeah, at the same time, we recommend to apply as soon as possible, because
Exactly.
you all would like to get the scholarship, and we have limited places for scholarship. Please work on your documents, translate them if needed, and apply as soon as possible to have like better chance to get scholarships. Okay, I've seen a reaction from Farouk that we replied on his question, and I would like to move to another question about accommodation, how it's handled at university in Schaffhausen. I think it's also related. As soon as you get visa, you need to come and you need to live somewhere. And Caroline, can you please explain about accommodation in Schaffhausen?
Yes, absolutely. So we do have a certain number of student housing options that if available, that our students can move into. So we have a certain number of rooms in shared apartments in Schaffhausen, close to the institute. It's where we have where Constructor Institute is officially renting those apartments, and we in a sense sublease them to our students. And so if we do have a limited number of rooms available, but if there are rooms available and of interest to our enrolled students, we'll be happy to help you move into a room in one of those shared apartments. They're very great quality apartments. We really wanted students to be comfortable and in ideal living situation to succeed in the program. So very modern, clean, well organized with everything that you would need. So there is that option. Otherwise, students can look elsewhere in other traditional methods where you look on housing websites to secure an apartment, and we would be able to point you in the right direction for finding accommodation that way.
Yeah, thank you so much, Carol. And I would like to add from my side here that apartments are really in good quality. So I never had such opportunity as a student, even when I graduated from university, to live in such apartments. So really, really nice apartments. We also have students who rented apartments by themselves. So it's also possible. And what I would like to tell at this point, that if you want to discuss something and to get some, feedback from our alumni from Constructor Institute, please text to us and we can connect you with our alumni who lived in Schaffhausen for 2 years, graduated, who lived in these apartments exactly. So feel free to ask their contacts. They will be happy to help with it. So Farouk, I hope we replied to your question. Let me move a little bit to other questions related to visa and apartments and scholarships. Also a question from Farouk. Does proof of finance is required again if we gain scholarship? It is large amount. Yeah, I think Caroline will also
Indeed. So indeed, you are correct that as part of the visa application, you need to prove that you have sufficient financial means to pay for the school that you would be enrolled in and to support yourself. So indeed, for our students who receive the full scholarship, the proof from us that they've been awarded the scholarship does suffice for the visa requirement, proof of financial means requirements.
Yeah, so in case if you receive this scholarship, we will provide official financial support letter to you where you will be notified about the scholarship amount. Yeah.
Yeah.
So our previous
sorry. Go ahead, Olga.
Yeah, our previous students, they used these letters to get visas and it was successful. At the same time, please note that when you get scholarship, you need to apply for a visa by yourself. So you need to prepare all the documents needed. Yeah, you need to contact Switzerland consulate and embassy by yourself in your country. It's not our work to help with that. Yeah, we will provide all the necessary documents, but you need to make this work done. I mean, applying for a visa by yourself. Yeah, Bertrand, you wanted to add something?
In line with what has been just said by both Olga and Caroline, the 2,000 francs for the living expenses, this is realistic and it's almost official in the sense that, as Olga just said, if you want to get a visa to live in Switzerland, the Swiss authorities are going to check that you have sufficient financial means. And typically, at least in Schaffhausen, in Switzerland, things vary canton by canton, but in Schaffhausen, the limit is more or less 2,000. So what it means is that you need to be able to show that you have 2,000 Swiss francs amounts at your disposal, which can come either from your own resources or from the scholarship. And if you have that level of scholarship, then in general, if you have that level of resources, normally you will be accepted. So the apartments that Caroline and Olga have been talking about, they cost approximately 1,000 a month. So this is Switzerland, things are not cheap. The things are typically of very high quality in Switzerland. as Olga pointed out, and both of them actually, Caroline and Olga, these are very good apartments. So it's in Switzerland, quality is very high and the prices follow. And so it means that you have another roughly 1,000 for the rest of your expenses. At the risk of disappointing you, you're not going to be able to dine in the best Schaffhausen or Zurich restaurant every night, but you can live normal, you can live quite decently on that amount. And of course, we don't want our students to starve, and as far as I know, no student so far has starved. So it's just right, it's both what the authorities expect and what we know is appropriate for a reasonably comfortable student life in Switzerland.
Yeah, thank you so much, Bertrand. Can you please also, I would like to extend this question because there were questions about, is it possible to work during studies? Like in terms of how busy it is to study in master's program, and if visa is allowed to work.
Right. So this, in particular, there was this question by Sanitya. Is it possible to balance a job while completing the part-time curriculum for this course? This was one of the questions, but maybe you're referring to another. But in any case, let me answer. So the part-time, if you're talking about the part-time program, the answer is clearly yes. The part-time program is precisely devoted to those people who want to continue working and do the program on a part-time basis. I have a suspicion that you're also asking whether it's possible to take the normal classic program while working. I cannot say strictly impossible, but it's tough because this is a full-time program. So, you can work hard, you can work harder than the expected work week, but I think some students have kept at least a part-time job to sustain themselves, especially remotely, for students working remotely while taking the program, but it's tough. It's really designed as a full-time program. So anything else that you do is your responsibility, and be prepared for it to be tough. With respect to working in Switzerland, the answer is no. With the kind of visa that you normally receive if you are a non-EU, I'm not talking here about Swiss citizens or EU citizens, I can mention them separately. But if you're not an EU or Switzerland citizen, then normally you receive what is known as an L visa, which I don't know the details, but I do know for sure that it does not enable you to accept any paid employment in Switzerland at all. So that's why you need to be either able to show that you have some sufficient personal financial resources or receive a scholarship from us, or some combination, a tuition waiver, which covers some of the costs, but the rest of the costs covered by you. But you are not permitted to take up a job in Switzerland with the L permit.
Yeah, thank you so much, Bertrand. Related question to it. What about people who already live in Switzerland on B permit? Do they need to change their visa to student one? If you know the reply, Caroline or Bertrand, it would be good.
Okay, I'm not an expert, but my answer, my guess is no. You with a B visa, you should be able to continue without any change to the program. So don't take my final word for it, because I'm not a visa or immigration expert. We can, if you write to Caroline, we can answer you. But I would say I'm 90% sure of my answer. And yeah, I said I would talk about EU and Swiss citizens. So of course, everything I said about the prohibition from working applies to non-EU, non-CH citizens. If you are a Swiss citizen, there's no particular restriction. And for EU citizens, it's almost as if you're a Swiss citizen. So the restrictions are very light, if any. So and for residents, I think is basically as good as Swiss.
Thank you. I received a personal message right now about, I think, blocked account. Yeah, if it's needed to have block account in case if you get a scholarship. So if it will be a tuition scholarship, it means that we will cover only tuition. In this case, you will need to confirm that you have some amount of money to live in Switzerland. In case if you get fully funded scholarship, tuition coverage and living costs of 2,000 Swiss francs per month, we will provide financial letter with which you don't need to have block account.
And,
okay?
and if I could just follow up on that, for those who would not receive the full scholarship and need to prove financial means, you would need to have a proof be able to submit proof to the visa authorities that you have the equivalent of 2,000 Swiss francs available to you per month during the time that you're enrolled in the program. But as far as I understand, it's not in a blocked account that it would rest. That is, as far as I understand, that is the case in some other countries, like in Germany. But of course, you would need to have those funds available and prove to the visa authorities that you do have those funds, but it wouldn't specifically, the requirement, as far as I understand, is not specifically that those funds be in a blocked account.
Thank you so much, Caroline, for clarification. It's important. Just one more time, two options. If it's tuition waiver, so you need to have this proof of financial means. If it's full scholarship you get from us, you don't need to have proof of financial means from your side. Yeah, we will provide this document for you. I hope it's fine, and we explained this. I would like to clarify about IELTS. Yes, some of you has IELTS certificate which you passed 10 years ago. Just one more time, English certificate is not required in general, it's optional. Please upload and provide this certificate. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah. Okay, next questions. Let me check. About scholarship in general, we had a question. Let me find it. One moment. Does the scholarship offered during admission vary based on the student's performance throughout the course? So if academic performance is not good enough, will the students still have scholarship? Yeah, Bertrand, can you please reply?
I can answer that. This is a good question. The scholarship is contingent on the student maintaining a grade of 5.5 or more during the program. So in Switzerland, which of which we have the grading system, it's a little strange if you're not used to the Swiss system. Grades are from 1 to 6. The passing grade is 4. And so I know at the master's level, we're not going to give, it typically does not happen that we give a 2 or 3. So mostly the grades are between 4 and 6 if they are passing, and then anything below 4 is a fail. So 5.5, if you are used, for example, to the ABCDEF system like in the US, 5.5 is a B, roughly. So in international terms, I expect to maintain a B, maybe B plus, 5.5 out of 6. We actually accept, because we know people have their ups and downs, we accept 1 semester of not meeting this with a grade at least equal to 5. So basically, we expect you to maintain a grade of 5.5. If in 1 semester it gets down to 5, we say, okay, you have to do better next semester. If you don't meet these criteria, the scholarship will stop. And this is for 3 semesters, because the last semester is the master thesis. And of course, if the scholarship is continuing, it will continue until the end of the master thesis. So, in practice, what it means is that for the first year and the first semester of the second year, you have to do well. You don't have to do 6, but you have to maintain 5.5, and you can go down to 5 in one semester.
Thank you so much, Bertrand. And one more question to you about scholarship interview. What will be during scholarship interview?
Thanks, Olga. This is a good question. It's good to be prepared. So when I run the interview, but I think my colleagues do more or less the same, it's organized in 3 parts. First, I ask students to introduce themselves. So this is just about 5 minutes because we have the CV anyway, so we can see the essentials, but it's good to have a self-introduction by the student himself or herself. Then I ask technical questions. And I can also ask more questions about the background. There's no strict limit to the kind of questions. So I can ask questions about the background, about the experience of the student, but I always ask them technical questions about the basic computer science background. Things like algorithms, and fundamental algorithms, fundamental data structures, basics of databases, logic, software design, things like this, the kind of thing that is normally taught in Bachelor of Computer Science programs. And then the last part is more interactive, where the student can ask us questions. So that's how it works.
Thank you so much, Bertrand. Please give reactions if you telling to participants, if you understood what will be during the interviews. Great, thank you. The next question is, what is the minimum bachelor's GPA for application? And can it be overridden with professional industry experience?
Yeah, that's a good question. There's no actual answer. Actually, I couldn't. There's no firm answer in any case. When I see the transcripts from universities, there are universities from all over, from the US to Afghanistan and Nigeria and everywhere in between. France, Italy, and countries have different grading systems anyway. So. We don't have a firm threshold. What I do look at, and I'm speaking from myself, but again, I think my colleagues react more as the same. I'm looking at grades in core computer science courses, things like data structures and algorithms, operating systems, the really fundamental computer science courses. I'm also interested in grades in mathematics because software engineering, computer science, and even advanced management rely on the same kinds of skills as mathematics. So I don't necessarily need you to understand, derivatives or integration methods, or if you have forgotten some of this, that's fine. But having a good mathematical reasoning ability is important. And can it be overridden with professional industry experience? Yes, to some extent. We take a balanced view of both the academic background and the experience that people may have acquired since university. So yeah, we consider both.
Thank you so much, Bertrand. One more question. My examination for the last semester of my undergrad exam is complete, but the result has not yet been published. It will be published within this month. I think it's August, Is it a problem to apply right now? Caroline, maybe you can.
Yes, I'd be happy to answer. So absolutely not. It's not a problem. We can, as long as you would have, we can accept applications from anyone that would have completed their bachelor's degree by the time they would start the program. And we're happy to look at applications with your academic results up until the point that are available up until the point where you're applying. And then we just ask if you were admitted interested and decided to enroll, then we just ask as soon as those last results are available to send them to us, but that's not a problem to start the application process.
Thank you for clarification. Also, there was a question about visa. Do we have to apply for a visa in country of your citizenship? Yeah, Caroline or Bertrand, probably you can specify if you know the answer.
Yes. So as far as I understand, it is your country of citizenship, except if you are a resident in another country. So I do understand that if you are currently a resident in another country, then your country of your citizenship, it may be possible to apply in that specific country, but by default it is the country of your citizenship, as far as I understand.
But yeah, but I do think the country of residence works.
Yeah, I think it also works. If you have this question, Anton, I think it was your question, you can also write to Caroline. Yeah, unfortunately, Flavia, who is helping our students to guide through visa process, she couldn't join today, but yeah, probably we can give more details.
Maybe we should say why she couldn't join. She couldn't join because she's actually helping a student who just arrived in Schaffhausen, and I think the student lost all of his, I don't know if it's his or her luggage. So there's a big, I mean, not a big, a small crisis. So she's not here, not because she's on holiday or something, but because she's helping a student. That's what she does.
Yeah, so we are waiting for you all, but first apply. Okay, so I would like to go a little bit back to the first questions we received in the chat. What opportunities does pursuing a master's degree here offer? Yeah, so Bertrand, I would like you to explain, you explained during your presentation, but probably you can give some examples, Caroline, or you, like about opportunities which our alumni received after pursuing degree with us. Yeah, because some of the students, they stayed in Switzerland, some of them in Europe. Yeah, some of them, they boost career with our master's degree. Yeah, and if you can a little bit more tell about some cases, it would be good. Yeah, or different paths with which like our master's degree can boost a career of our students.
Yeah, I think we can say that our students are highly employable. A number of them have found employment in Switzerland, which is no mean feat because many of them came from non-EU or non-Switzerland, non-Swiss countries, which makes it difficult for companies. I mean, we talked about the difficulty of getting into Switzerland as a student, but it's even harder to get into Switzerland as an employee. So the companies really have to want the students very hard to organize a work visa. So I don't have the exact statistics, but a number of our students have stayed in Switzerland. The others have gone back to their home countries or third countries. And typically, what the kind of, I mean, there's a lot of variation, so I'm not sure I can give a firm single pattern, but typically the kind of positions they get correspond to the goals of the program as I describe it. Of course, they're not going to become chief technical officer of IBM just a week after having graduated from Constructor, but they get technical positions at the beginning of a technical leadership career ladder. So I think we don't have the time to go into specific examples. We should actually have a bit more such examples on our webpage. I think we will do it in the future, but I can certainly confirm that our graduates are in high demand in the IT industry, including, not limited to the Swiss industry, but including in Switzerland.
Yeah, Bertrand, thank you. I would like to highlight one more time. Those who wants to speak with our alumni, please let me know, text me in Telegram and I will provide details because like just several days ago, I was in chat with our alumni. We have like our own chat and they are happy to help and to reply on the questions, to give honest feedback, not from us, but from themselves as well. About how they boost their career, how they lived. Yeah, feel free to ask this.
So I keep interrupting Olga. I apologize. But what I just wanted to mention to support what she was saying is that, this picture that you have on the slide, it's not actors, right? It's not the kind of picture that you see in beautiful university websites with people who look like students, but actually who are actors who are paid to pose. These are actually members of our first class of two years ago, and several of them are examples of what I just described. People working in industry now, and we don't have anything to hide. So we're quite happy to put you in touch with these and other people.
Yeah, some of them, they work in our constructor group companies. Yeah, some of the students, they are in Switzerland. They received their visa permits for their new employees in Switzerland. So everything is possible. You should be also proactive. There are so many different opportunities in Switzerland in general, and our students participated in hackathons, not only in Schaffhausen but in Zurich and other cantons as well. They even won some of the hackathons. So you should be also proactive, try to find your jobs, try to participate, to be visible at the same time. It depends on you. It's not only about us. We will give everything we can, like regarding knowledge, regarding connections, connections to our constructor group companies, also the people with whom we work a lot, but it also depends on you. Okay, so we are not open hour, we are open hour and 20 minutes already. Yeah, so I think we replied to all of the questions.
And if Bertrand, Professor Meyer, if you could go to the very last slide, well, we can just make sure that everyone has our email address. So
before I do that, let me very briefly expand on what Olga just said, because I'm not sure that when we say constructor group, it's completely clear what we're talking about. It's something I could have mentioned in my talk. So Constructor Institute is an academic institution, part of a larger network. I mean, I mentioned the people, but I didn't mention the other institutions. So the Constructor Group, as was created by Serge Bell, whom I mentioned earlier, includes educational institutions and companies. So the educational institutions are us, Constructor Institute in Schaffhausen, and our sister institution, Constructor University in Bremen. And then there are a number of companies, in particular a company which is engaged in tools for educational support. I mentioned this briefly, but also tools involved in AI and in industrial projects, all around the universities and making up what we call the constructor ecosystem. I think it was important to mention that. So now let me do what Caroline was just asking. This is the page you wanted, right?
Indeed, yes. So just make sure that you all have our email address, and we'll be happy to respond to further specific questions or re-respond to anything you might have forgotten if you send us an email at that email address.
Yeah, I also sent this email to the chat. You can copy there. You can contact me in Telegram in case if you would like to hear from alumni, or you want to speak with me about something, yeah, about Experienced Constructor Institute. Caroline will be in touch with you through email, and she will get your application and process them. During the interview, you will be with Bertrand and Caroline. So please copy our contact details. Yeah, I think just the last I would like to say, Constructor Institute, it's not so big institute right now. There are not so many students, and this programs means a lot for us. And if you would like to be part of students who are all the time in touch with our professors, very well-known professors in the world, in Europe, in Switzerland, yeah, you are more than welcome to join us. Yeah, it's not a big university where we have 1,000 students, where you just one of the students. Yeah, you will be in a small group of people interacting all the time together, and this is one of the things you need to understand if you would like to be in such environment, to get these opportunities to interact, to get opportunities from these people. Then it would be great opportunity for you to join us. Yeah, SIT was renamed to Constructor Institute, that is true, and right now we are part of big constructor group companies around. Yeah,
you can
so,
see that the t-shirt here still says SIT. This was like 3 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. And I think the reason is partly in what I just said about the constructor group. We wanted to have a joint name for everything that we do on the non-profit side, educational side, like Constructor Institute. But on the company side, I also didn't mention. I forgot to mention Constructor Capital, which is there to finance startups and things like this. So it was useful to have a kind of global capsule name which covers everything.
thank you so much. It's really great to see you all on the call. We will send follow-up emails. You asked for the slides. We will send this recording. Thank you for everyone who turned on the cameras. It's very nice to see you more in person. Let's say like this, yeah. So, and feel free to text us to ask more questions, and we'll be happy to help you and to guide through the process. Thank you.
Thank you again.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye. Good night or
Bye.
good morning, depending on where you are. Bye.
Yeah, bye. So let me stop recording.